Alright, we are going to do an open road demo here and show you how to enter and save a show and then do a show settlement. So we start by logging in. Once you're in, if you have several bands that you have access to, you'll select them from this drop down up here, but assuming you just have one, it'll default to that band. This first page is showing you a list of all the shows. You've got your past shows here, and then you have your upcoming shows that I just clicked on. So here we can see that we've got a show coming up in this imaginary band at the Jefferson Theater, and then all of our past shows will be an archive. A list of all of the shows will show up down here. As far as the tour management goes and actually settling a show, I'm just going to quickly walk you through that process. So to start, you would click on shows, and then you'll click add a show. Currently, in order to get a show into the system, you have to start from scratch. At some point in the near future, we will add a function where we actually have at least the shell of the show in here, so the date, the venue, the city, state, but for now you have to start from scratch. So let's imagine that the show is this evening on the 1st of August. You choose your type, typically a festival or a headline or a co-bill, but in this case let's say it's a headline. If you have a name of a festival, for a festival play, you can put that here. Venue, this uses Google Places, so you can just start typing the name of the venue. Let's say it's the Crocodile in Seattle. So here's the Crocodile Back Bar, for example. Or let's say you had, I live in Charlottesville, so we'll go with the Southern, which is a venue that we have here. So you just start typing it, and you can see it says powered by Google here. Once you see it, you select it, and then it automatically puts it in place. You can change it if you need to by clicking change. And if for some reason you are unable to find a venue, or if you're in a non-traditional venue, like somebody's living room, for example, you can click manually add a venue and put a name, address, city, state, and zip code in here. But for now, we'll go with the Southern Cafe and Music Hall. Promoter, this is a work in progress here. Some of these are individual names of people who are promoters, so promoter contacts, and some are promoter companies, like this one or this one. If you know the promoter, so in Charlottesville this might be Star Hill, so I just start typing Star Hill and there it shows up on the list, so I can select it. If yours is not in the list, you can click add new. Ideally this is the promoter company, so not the individual person but the name of the company. If you don't have this information, that's fine. The main idea is for something in the future where promoters would have access to their shows also, but right now this is just for bands, so this is not critical. The deal, this is where you put your guarantee versus or plus. So let's say it was $5,000 versus 70% of gross box office receipts. You would put that in here. And show notes, this is where you can leave any kind of notes about what you liked about the show, what you liked about the venue, what you liked about the food, whatever you want to put in here or the band members want to put in here, you can type. Both this deal, most of these fields follow over into the next page that we'll show you. So once we're in here, I'll just type test in here so you can see. Once you're all done, you hit save, and now your show is in the system. If you were to come to the list of shows, you would see it in there under the upcoming shows. But now we have our show detail page where you can see the shows, the date, whether it's headline, and where it is. And then here is the map of the market that it belongs to, and here's a link that would take you to the market page. And then here's the map of where the venue is. And then some brief information that would come from the show settlement, which we're about to do. If there's show settlement information to put into a graph, that would be here. And then there's some basic analytics. As tour manager, you won't really need any of this likely, so this is mostly for management. What you would do next once you have this in is click on the settlement button. And the settlement button is going to take you to the page. This is really only the second page about a show, and it's the information that you'll need to manage. So the top part is just general information. You can see that we have our deal notes carry over, and then our show notes carry over. So you can add more information here if you need to. But we start out with non-financial information, at least as far as bookkeeping goes. This is more big picture. If your show is a headline or a co-bill, you have the opportunity to enter the show gross. The show gross is the total amount of revenue from ticket sales. So if you had 100 people that bought tickets for $10, this would be $1,000. This number does show up on your settlement sheet from the promoter when you have a hard ticket show that you're the headliner for. So you would just be getting this number from there. This is a required field. If you don't know it, you can click I don't know. But ideally, you have this number. It'd be preferred that you actually put this number in for your headline shows. Same with paid attendance. It should be on the settlement sheet from the promoter for headline and for co-bill. If you have any other kind of show, then these fields are grayed out and you're not able to enter anything there. So if you have a festival play, we don't care what the gross of the festival was, and they're not going to give it to us or to you anyway, and we don't care what the paid attendance was either. All we care about in that case is this third thing, which is the estimated peak set attendance. So in the case of a festival, we won't know the show gross, we won't know the paid attendance, or we're not interested in it really. But we do want to know about how many people came to see. So as tour manager, if you get a chance, when you get a chance, look at the crowd size and do your best guess as to how many people are there. And you can type in that number here. So let's say in this case, show gross was $10,000. Let's say paid attendance was 1,000. So we'll say 1,000 tickets at $10 a piece. And estimated peak set attendance, we'll say it was 1,000. When you have your venue settlement sheet, in other words, it's either going to be emailed to you in a spreadsheet or it'll be an actual paper. You can snap a photo of it and click upload file here, and that way the agency will have access to this and management will as well, and so will the business management team. So that's everything up at the top. Now we get into the financial information. Performance income, this is what the band gets paid. So let's say that it was a 5,000 versus 70%. In this case, 70%. Let's just assume for simple math that there's no reduction in fees or anything like that for admission tax or facility fees or anything. So let's just assume that it's straight 70% of the 10 grand. So we're going to say that what the band is going to get paid is 7,000. Buyout income, this is not the amount of money that they give you for a meals buyout. We're not interested in keeping track of that. That doesn't usually happen at settlement anyway. That happens earlier in the night and they give you cash. This is for specifically production buyout or hotel buyout or flights buyout. So they might, this would be in your deal that you get from the agency, but this might be a $500 production buyout or meals, or not meals, lodging, let's say. Something like that. You can put that in here. If there's nothing, then you'll just put a 0. You do have to put some value in there. The system expects it. So now this first section is our total income is 7,000. And then the next part, the system wants to know where that money is. So was anything withheld for state taxes? Again, this is out of the band's payments. So in certain states, I think there are about 15 or so, California, North Carolina, Connecticut, Massachusetts, they withhold some amount for state tax on behalf of the band, the promoter will. So if you have any of that, like in California, so it would be 7% of this, so that would be $490 that they would withhold. But again, that'll be on your settlement sheet. In this case, in Virginia, we'd say it's 0. Deposit at the agency. So again, let's say you earned 7,000. Let's say that 1,000 was already paid to the agency, so we'll type that in there. And then other show deductions. This might be fan club sales. If the band is selling their own tickets in advance, then obviously they would already be in control of some of this 7,000. So if that's the case, you might type in 500 and then say fan club sales here. That does happen sometimes. Otherwise, the only other times I've seen deductions that come out of the band's pay would be in the state of New York. Sometimes they'll do a fee for a fog machine or a hazer machine that comes out of the band's pay, so you might use it for that. But otherwise, this will be a 0. So in this case, you can see our income is now 7,000, and then we had 1,000 of that money is already on deposit at the agency, so we are expecting to get 6,000 at settlement. So 7,000 minus 1,000 equals 6. So let's say that you get a check for 5,500, and then you put the check number, and then let's say that you get 500 in cash. So if that's the case, then you received 6,000. So you earned 7, 1,000 you already have access to, the agency does. So you're due 6. You get 5,500 in check, 500 in cash, and that's a 6,000 minus 6,000 equals a variance of 0. Let's say that you don't get anything in cash. Let's say that you got just a check for 5,000 because the deal was 5,000 versus 70%. Occasionally I've seen where the promoter will have a check already pre-printed for 5,000 and then say, oh, we'll have to wire you the other 1,000 in this case. That's a bad example. This would have been $4,000 check because 1,000 at the agency. So here's a $4,000 check, and we'll have to wire you the other 2,000, the back end bonus essentially. If that's the case, you can leave this like this with a variance and still submit this. The business management team won't be able to export this into the accounting software with the variance, but at least they can see this and then do what they need to. And if you have a variance like this, you could say $2,000 being wired to the band, right? Something like that. But in this case, let's assume that you got 5,500 and check and 500 cash. All right, so that would be that. You can hit save progress here if you want, if you don't have your merch numbers yet, and the information will be saved, or you can just continue through the whole thing. So we basically repeat these same steps, but now with merchandise. The first question with merch is who controlled the cash that night? Was it the artist or the venue? Assuming it was the venue, then you're going to be settling with them just like you would for a show. They had the cash, they're going to probably give you a check. This happens obviously at festivals, and it happens at the big venues like Red Rocks or some of the amphitheaters where they actually control the cash and then settle with you at the end of the night. So if we select venue, then you just go through a process much like the show where you're saying what was the total earned, and this is just coming off of the sheet that they give you. So let's say it was 2,500. If they charge any credit card fees, that would be here, but they don't usually. But they do take a percentage, might be 25 or 30%. So let's make this number 3,000 actually for easy math. Let's say they take 20%, so it'd be 600. Some venues will deal with the sales tax on your behalf. So if that's part of it, then you'll see that number in there. Let's say it was 7,650. And then any other merch deductions. This is unlikely. I don't even know what this would be, other merch, but it's here just in case there's something that we're not thinking of. If there is some other deduction, you can type it in here. So this system is telling you that you should expect a check for 2,323.50 in this case. So let's say that you get a check for that amount. Merch check number and cash received was 0. Again, you have to put a 0 if there's no value. So this would be ready to submit. So I could submit settlement here, and then the show would be officially settled. Let's look at the example as if the artist sells it. So you're either using at venue or for credit card processing, or you're using Square or some combination of those or something else, possibly Shopify, but probably most people are using Square to actually process the credit card sales. So in that case, you would open up whatever system you're using and look in the reports for the end of the night for what the total sales were, and you put the total credit card sales here. Let's say it was 500. The tips would be here. Just a note on this, if you are using Square for sales and tips, you'll notice in the Square portal when you look at the reports that they will tell you the total amount that ran on the credit card, and they will show you of that amount what the tips are, but they don't isolate what the actual item sales were. So you actually have to take the total credit card sales minus the tip amount to get the sales amount. It's a little backwards. Not sure why they do it that way, but just a tip for you. If you did cash sales, you can just count up the cash you had that night and put the total in here. So let's say that was 600. Down here, so that's our income. These things all together gives us 1,150. Credit card fees, again, this would be in the Square report or whatever credit card processing software you're using. You would see a report of what the fees were. Let's say it was $20.50. Cash, if you had to pay the venue a commission for the total sales, let's say that we paid them 10% of this, so 115. A venue seller, this would be if you have to pay a seller $50 or $75. That's not a seller that is a member of the crew, but rather someone that works for the venue. You could put that in here. In this case, we'll say that's 0. Any other merch deductions, same thing as before. Not sure what this would be used for, but so if we're going to put 0 here. And then down here, it tells what you should expect. So if you have 600 in cash income, minus 115, minus 0, minus 0, you should end up with 485. Count your actual cash one more time before you submit. Make sure that it balances, so you type 485 in there, and then your cash variance is 0. And you're ready to go. This just shows what the credit card amount that the band should expect to receive from the credit card company. So this is everything. We hit submit, and hopefully soon we'll have a little congratulations sign for a little unicorn across the screen or something like that to say you've settled the show. But for now, what we get is this updated graph that shows us how this show did compared to other shows in the market. And there would be a line here if there were multiple shows. Gives us some summary information up here, and then down here it gives us a few analytics about the show for the management. So for tour manager, as the tour manager, there's one other thing that you'll need to keep track of, which is the cash bank. So we're going to segue into that now. And the cash bank is, the way that we see it is that you have this safe on the road or a bank envelope or a bank bag or some way that you're tracking cash, and we treat that as just another bank account. Money comes in, you take money out of it, just like you would a bank account. This here, when you click on cash bank, this is the register for that cash account. So you can see that money came in this case, from this show on July 10th for 500, and then the show that we just entered at the Southern, there was 500 that came in for the performance money. This is a separate merch cash bank. Actually, I'm going to see if I can edit this. I'll do that later. But in your case, likely these are going to be the same thing. These will be together. This is a setting in the system that I will change in this case, but what you'll see is that merch and show money normally get deposited into the same cash bank so that you can see them all in one place. If you are in a situation where you've got a merch manager who handles the cash totally separately from the tour manager, from the tour cash, then we can set up two different banks like this. But in most cases, so far 100% of our clients, they have both the tour and the merch together, where the merch manager is handing over the cash to the tour manager at the end of the night. That's typical. So, but anyway, in this case, what you get is 500 from this previous show, and then we just added 500 again last night. So if you were to go and count your cash in the bag on the bus or the van or whatever, you should count 1,000. You can add a transaction. So let's say that you were going to take 900 of this and put it into Wells Fargo, into the actual bank account. We could type in here 900, say that you're taking it out of the Tour Cash Bank, and you could say out of Tour Cash Bank and into Wells Fargo, something like that. that entry shows up here as a negative 900. So now the balance, if you were to count your cash, would be 100. If you had to pay, let's say, a toll in cash, same thing. Bridge. Hit save on that for $10. Now we're down at $90. At the end of a tour, or if it's a long tour, you can do this every week or every day, however you want to do it. But I would open up the tour cash bank, the actual envelope or the safe, and count it up and make sure that it matches this system. When you do that, you can click this Audit Cash button, and you'll see that we're counting for today. Let's say that the total we counted was 75. And you see it says the balance is 90, so this is 15 less than expected. If you want to put a note in here, you can. But what happens, you hit save, and the system says, would you like to record an adjustment? Because the balance is off. So let's say yes in this case. So now we can see this striped section is the audit, and we counted 75, but the actual balance was 90. And then the next thing that gets automatically entered is an adjustment for $15, a negative 15, to bring the balance to 75. So now we counted 75, and now in the system we have 75. So now the audit matches up the two things. So now that's that. So we have the 75. We on the accountant side, we take all these entries and we put them into the accounting software so that it looks just like this. So everything here matches up. And that should be it. So you've got your tour cash bank and you've got your shows. The one other place that you can see shows, if you go to the dashboard, you could see your most recently settled shows, or you could see your 5 most recent unsettled shows if you have ones that are unsettled. But most of your time will be spent between dashboard as a quick view of shows, but mostly shows and the cash bank. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions and I'd be happy to help. Also, one other thing is that on this you can see this, it's responsive design, meaning that I'm looking at this on a computer right now, but if you were to take this and you actually had it open on a phone, you can have it very narrow like this. Or this sort of mimics what it would be like on a phone, so that you can see that it stacks everything so that it's visible on a phone also. All right, there you go.